What is the secret formula to succeed? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about it because it's very simple. Or is it very simple? This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about the secret formula of success, because so many people are not only working harder, they're working smarter and still stuck in the same cycle of paychecks and salary and not being able to afford the things they want or experience the satisfaction and fulfillment they truly desire. Whether you want to build a company, whether you want to get a promotion, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to buy a house, increase your investments, or perhaps just start a hobby and do things that make you really happy, or start a family. These are all goals. And we've got to look at the basic formula of success is to fulfill a goal. At its essence, you are creating a goal and fulfilling it. And when you fulfill it, you feel successful. It could even be as small as baking a cake. Anything that you set your mind to that creates a goal and you attain the goal is considered to be successful, a successful outcome. But most people equate success with making money, with getting wealthier, with having a bigger house, a nicer car. Sure, that's great. Nothing against that. But that's not the only thing, because money isn't everything, but in today's world, money is everything. So either way, you're applying a desire, a belief, and a projected outcome. And you're looking to fulfill that outcome and creating a plan. So let's look at that plan, how you fulfill your goals. And most of you already know this. You've succeeded at something like graduating high school, buying your first car, getting your first job, completing certain duties, winning, a friendly game of football, whatever it is. You cooked a meal, you're able to run a mile, or, whatever it is in your own personal life, your own personal sense, somewhere in your life you've succeeded. And it's usually done like this. First, you have the conception. You conceive of the idea of what it is you want to experience, what it is you want to accomplish. And then you believe in it. You believe that it's possible. You believe that it's possible to experience. And then you create an action plan. You create a plan of getting there. How are you going to do it? What are you going to do? A set of action steps that's planned in your mind of what to do next. And you become decisive. You take action quickly. You execute that plan. And then you commit to the execution of that plan until it's fulfilled. And then you succeed. You experience the outcome. That's it in a nutshell. And it sounds easier said than done because of the obstacles. If we only look at the success formula, yeah, it works in theory. And it really works in action. But you're going to deal with obstacles. You're going to deal with changes. You're going to deal with curveballs. And that is what really makes fulfilling a goal or becoming successful difficult. So the formula: conceive and believe, create an action plan, to create a plan, strategize, execute that plan, commit to that plan. In other words, take action until you fulfill the goal. I mean, that's the easy formula. Until you encounter procrastination, hesitation, fear of the uncertainty, just giving up. All of these factors come into play. You climb a mountain. I mean, a lot of people, I have a patient who just graduated college and he refuses to get a job. His parents are bugging him, and that's fine. I was the same way. Everybody's like that after college if you're not too ambitious. But if you get stuck in that idea that life is just supposed to be fun and adventure, you're not going to want to work. And you think you've got it all figured out. You think you know everything until you don't. And, the idea of graduating college is like you just climbed a mountain. You just finished from grade 1 through 12 and then 4 years of college. That's 16 years of school. Yeah, you've just climbed a mountain. Congratulations. Now life begins. And now you climb one mountain, and then all of a sudden you see a whole range of mountains, and it could be daunting. You could realize, oh my God, what do I do now? So you have these desires, you have these goals in mind to fulfill. You want to become successful. Hey, nobody was born to live in poverty. Nobody was born to be miserable. Nobody was born to not have any friends. Nobody was born to not have a house or food. Even if you're born into a circumstance, you still work for it. You still try to figure out a way to survive, and not only survive, but thrive. Everybody does this. It's innate in us. It's innate in human beings. That we don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. So we get into this idea, whether it's hitting a baseball, we've all started out somewhere. We've all started out being clumsy. You got to be willing to fail, in other words. You got to be willing to look bad. You hit this fear of failure, which creates a lot of hesitation and indecisiveness. And then you procrastinate because you're afraid to fail. The fear of failure is really the fear of looking bad. What are people going to think of me? Am I going to let people down? Why bother starting? Why bother trying if I'm only going to let people down, or if I'm only going to look bad? It's too hard. That's another obstacle. Believing that it's too hard, not believing in yourself, becomes an obstacle. Procrastination is really the fear of uncertainty. It's indecisiveness. You can never know what's going to happen around the next corner. Every time you hit a corner, you can't predict what's going to happen next. Otherwise, life would be pretty boring. There's always going to be a degree of uncertainty, which makes life an adventure. And if you don't see it as an adventure, well, then you're in for a real hell. You don't want to force yourself to do something you don't want to do, but we all know sometimes if you want to lose weight, let's just say losing weight, this is something I believe a lot of people can relate to. Working out. There are going to be days where you don't want to work out, but you commit to working out, you do it anyway. You're going to go to the gym and work out and not have a great workout. Why do I feel weaker? Why am I tired? I didn't get a great workout. I didn't burn enough calories. You're going to feel like this. All of these goals that we have for ourselves requires commitment. And when you have a lack of commitment, it's because you've given up, or because it wasn't what you thought it would be. In other words, you find yourself having to do things that you don't necessarily enjoy. The expectation that life was supposed to be one long party, and you're only going to do what you like and avoid doing anything you don't like, is really an irrational belief. It's not realistic. It's not rational to think that. Everyone who has climbed Mount Everest has had to struggle doing it. But when they got to the top, all that struggle was worth it. There is no goal that is struggle-free. There is no goal where there is no learning curve. There is no goal where you're not going to stumble and fumble. If you ever played baseball, I remember when I was younger, I didn't know how to hit the ball. I didn't even know the rules of the game. I was afraid of the ball. I didn't even know what a strike was. And I was on this little league baseball team. We were like the worst team in the league, France, Texaco. And I remember the coach is yelling at his son all day, every game. He was a pitcher. And he couldn't figure out what position to put me in because I was afraid of the ball. I couldn't catch the ball. I couldn't hit the ball. If I hit the ball, it was out of sheer luck. I didn't even know the idea of 3 strikes you're out and 4 balls you walk. In other words, I sucked at it. It wasn't until I got older, like a decade or two later, where I realized I was just afraid of the ball. And I don't have to be afraid of the ball. I can just look at it and catch it. Really grab it out of the sky. And when I look at the ball when it's being thrown at me, well, he's not throwing it at me. And if he does, I can just move out of the way. But I want to hit this ball. I'm going to keep my eye on the ball and where that bat meets. So I started to figure it out. In other words, there's a learning curve. You're always going to start out fumbling and tumbling. And if you're not willing to go through that process, you're not going to improve. A big thing in fulfilling any goal is you have to level up. If you're struggling and you find yourself living paycheck to paycheck, You're at the same pay grade and you want to get a raise. If you're not willing to level up, you're not going to get that pay raise. You're not going to become team leader. If you don't make yourself important, you don't stand out, then you're going to remain in the same place in your life. Unwillingness to learn, another obstacle. Thinking you know everything and there's nothing left to learn, so you never apply yourself. You're not going to get anywhere if you're not going to learn. Every endeavor requires learning, requires the growth mindset. So an unwillingness to learn anything is going to keep you stuck in your life. The other one, false expectations. It's not what you thought it would be. How many of you have gone into something and you realize it wasn't what you thought it was and you're too invested to back out, so you'll follow it through the end only to regret doing it? But you don't ever pat yourself on the back for at least completing it, at least finishing what you start. Because there's skills that you learn in that process that you can then take to your next goal, to your next project. That is how life works. You're going to come across things you don't really like. You're going to come across having to do things you didn't plan for. And those things you didn't plan for, most people are uncomfortable with the unfamiliar. You see, when you get caught in your comfort zone, you don't want to change, you don't want to grow. You believe something is too hard, too challenging. You keep telling yourself that over and over and over again. You're not going to grow, you're not going to change, and you keep choosing by default your comfort zone. And now your comfort zone doesn't necessarily mean sitting on a couch watching TV or sitting in your bed with nice fluffy pillows. The comfort zone could be depression. It could be alcoholism. It could be never trying. You're comfortable never trying because you don't want to challenge yourself because it doesn't feel good. Most people don't work out because it doesn't feel good. Most people don't work out because when you push on weights, your muscles burn, and they don't like that feeling. They don't like the feeling of being sore after a workout. In other words, you want to have your cake and icing. You can't have your cake without your icing. Whatever the saying is you can't have it both ways. The grass is not greener on the other side. There are no shortcuts. When any kind of trial and error experience is going to create aggravation, it's going to create irritation because it's going to challenge you. It's going to challenge your belief system. It's going to challenge your skill level. It's going to challenge what you know, what you think you know, until you realize you do not know. Only in the not knowing is there learning. Only in the willingness to learn is there growth. And only in growth is there improvement. And without improvement, you don't level up. So even though things are not what you expected to be, they're not as pleasant as you thought it would be, or you're stuck in your comfort zone, you're used to not waking up early. Whatever it is you're used to doing, whatever's familiar. There's a lot of people who live in abusive relationships, and they go from one abusive relationship to another because it's familiar. It's just what they know. And being in a healthy relationship is uncomfortable. They run away from it because it's unfamiliar, even though it's what they complain about not having. So getting out of your comfort zone, whatever rut you're in it because that's what's comfortable, that's what's familiar to you. You must go out of the familiar into the unfamiliar, into the unknown. And that could be uncomfortable, could be scary, could be anxiety producing because of the fear of the unknown. But you take that fear and ride that energy, turn that emotion into excitement, into adventure, and then you'll experience courage. The non-commitment, always backing out. You don't want to see things through to the end. If you don't follow through, you're never going to come to completion. Why do you not commit? Why do you quit before it ends? It's usually because you're coming to terms with an aspect of yourself you're not willing to look at. And there's usually some underlying belief system that you're telling yourself, an inner dialogue, a story that you're telling yourself about why it's not worth it. about how quit now because it's just going to get worse, or you think it's hard now, it's going to get harder later, so quit now. Or it's getting so uncomfortable, it's becoming so unfamiliar. In other words, the change is too drastic. And the test of your will, how bad do you want it? What are you willing to do? What does it take? How much time are you willing to dedicate? It takes a real devotion to the action steps to see them through. In other words, you've got to look at the long-term gain, not the short-term gain. If you're only looking at short-term gains, just to feel good in the moment, you're never going to want to climb that hill once it gets steep. You only want to experience the nice, easy coasting downhill. And if you want the easy way out of everything, well, nothing will ever change in your life. Not unless you get really lucky. And how often does that happen? Putting in the work, there's always a learning curve. You got to get out of your comfort zone into the learning zone, into being mildly uncomfortable. Now, you don't make yourself do things that make you miserable. And that's not what I'm saying. You find yourself doing something and it wasn't what you thought of because it's making you miserable. Well, then that should make you stop doing it. But if it makes you mildly uncomfortable, it's testing your limits. And you got to ask yourself, what are your limits? Can you break free from those limits? Can you break free from the inner dialogue of telling yourself you're not good enough? That's a huge obstacle. These are the real obstacles of your own thoughts, the story that you tell yourself. Poverty can become really comfortable for some people. Playing victim can become really comfortable because it's familiar. Facing your fear, in other words, facing change. Do something different. Take a different route home from work or going to work. Shop at a different store than you normally shop at. Buy your groceries from a different grocery store. Go to a different barber, just for the heck of it. To see what it's like to change your routine, to experience something different, to get used to the unfamiliar. And that'll change your brain patterns. Because you get stuck in a certain way of being, the older you get, it's harder to change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, as the saying goes. But really you can, because you have to change your perspective. Your perspective of who you are. You believe you are this sensation. You have a sense of self and a belief construct around that. I am not this, I am that. That's not who I am. You get fixated on who you are. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Or I'm a fighter, or I'm a go-getter. Or I just let things come to me. I'm that kind of person. You believe you are that kind of person because you tell yourself that over and over and over. And you have memories of experience of being that way to back up that belief, so the belief solidifies, becomes your identity. You got to look at your values. What's really important to you? Maybe the goals that you create are not really good for you. Chasing after money, really, it's so common in today's society to chase after status and power, just to look good for the neighbors, to please your parents, to impress your friends. And when you get that goal, you got that Lambo, whatever it is, you got your brand new car, your first brand new car, and you're not happy. There's so many people who make money and are not happy. They're miserable. Because it's not part of their core value system. It's not an authentic expression of who they are. Most people believe who they are is just a bunch of social programming from growing up. It's like social conditioning. You got to break free from that conditioning, unravel that conditioning to find out who you are and what your core values are, and then create goals from your authenticity. Most people love contributing. Most people want to give and want to help. It's very satisfying, very rewarding to help others. Most people, when you ask them, what do you really want to do? They say they want to make an impact. They really want to make an impact in their community to improve things because they really love the world. They really love human beings. And they want to improve human life. Only they get stuck in this 9-to-5 job because they have the skill and they just go from day to day, living from paycheck to paycheck, content, resigned, until something happens that wakes them up and makes them realize, I'm miserable, I need to change. Or the needs of your lifestyle changes. The bills increase. You need to make more money. You have children. And you realize, I need to pay for my baby's diapers, and I need to make more money. Often that is a motivator. You got to find out what motivates you. Usually it's some sort of external reward. You're going to make more money. But again, you make more money, you're not happy, you're not satisfied, you're not fulfilled, because it's not who you are. You've got to find what intrinsically motivates you, what's really important to you, what it is you really want to create and express. Because then when you start to take the action steps from that, you will be committed. You will wake up not resenting life, of thinking, oh, God, I got to wake up to do this. You're going to wake up with enthusiasm. I can't wait to get to work. Because work is no longer work. Work is just simply what you're doing to create that goal. What steps you're taking to create that goal. And are you adaptable enough? Are you able to delegate? Are you able to recruit? In other words, what are your inner resources? What are your outer resources? What are your skill levels? Do you need to improve your skills, communication, negotiation, whatever it is? Improve your knowledge on a certain subject, get certified. That's what you got to do. You got to level up. What are your external resources? Who can you call upon to ask for help? Who can you rely upon? What kind of team do you have around you? And if you don't have it, how can you create it? You can go on Fiverr and hire somebody to do your scheduling for you. You can outsource work and delegate. You can ask favors from coworkers. You can ask the boss for advice. There's outer resources, and you need to know them. So knowing your resources, this is a part of leadership. You see, it really requires leadership to fulfill your goal. And I don't mean leading people, telling them what to do. I mean leading your own life. A leader knows their own resources. A leader is decisive. A leader takes action quickly. A leader does not hesitate. One of the ways of, if you find yourself procrastinating, give yourself the 5-second rule. Whatever you're thinking, give yourself 5 seconds to do it. And really count down 5, 4, 3, and then go do it. And once the 5 seconds is over, it's already gone. You're just going to keep procrastinating because that's what's comfortable. To get out of that comfort zone, when you have the idea of an action, give yourself the 5-second rule. That's one way to get out of hesitation. So there are techniques to overcome these obstacles, to cultivate courage, to learn what your core values are, to find out what your resources are, to be resourceful. You see, this simple formula, the idea of being successful, requires so much more than just knowing your conception, knowing that you need to make a plan, execute that plan, and commit to that plan. There are obstacles that arise. That's what keeps you from succeeding. You already know how to succeed. You just don't know how to deal with the obstacles. And if you want to experience satisfaction, fulfillment, whether it's getting a raise, whether it's starting a business, whether it's increasing your connections with people, creating belonging, I can help you do that because it's all in your mind. It's a mindset. And you have the resources, you just don't know how to access them. Once you access the resources, the world becomes your oyster. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. I sure hope that helps. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment below, and I will respond. My contact information will be below this video. Thank you so much for listening.